Ba ba la ba. Welcome to our first show. Damn, I don't even have a name yet. I'm still thinking. Like, fuck it. Grappling Munchies. There we go. Grappling Munchies. I'm the host, Elias Gugos, and today we're going to be just an introductory show. So it's going to be like 10 minutes. We're going to have like 10, 20 minutes of conversation. So we got to think now. What kind of things do we need on the show? Well, I could just talk about shit that the show's going to be about. Well, on Friday's show, we're going to have Nick, my good friend Nick. And we're just going to be sharing a bunch of stories, talking about fighting. But today I want to talk about judo in BJJ. Now, this is a big controversy in judo, in MMA, and BJJ. We saw it in Ronda Rousey. We see it in Cyborg. Not Chris Cyborg. The other Cyborg. The ADCC Cyborg. And if you know what I'm talking about, this dude's must be about 98 kilograms of muscle mass, and he's just wrestling perfect. He's got the old school judo leg grabs, the judo one arm shoulder throws. He's perfect in gi with it. Now, there's a very weird rule in jiu-jitsu where a judo black belt has to be a blue belt where he starts. Now, I want to clarify something. If this was a judo black belt from maybe 10 years ago, I can see where that rule was coming from. But in judo, you only get 20 seconds on the ground. And the elite level judoka are taking BJJ to maximize those 20 seconds. So if anything, a high level judoka shouldn't be a blue belt in BJJ. It should. I agree that some people are good on the ground, but then what about wrestlers? What about people with wrestling experience? Do we just give them blue belts? I'm a white belt 3 stripes, but I'm a brown belt in judo. Does that mean I start with a fucking blue, like, white belt 4 stripes? No. And to be honest, yes, I smash people standing in competition, even in no-gi. I agree, no-gi is my strong suit because of the wrestling, but why? Why would we need to give them blue belts? Here's an example of how effective judo is in MMA. Okay, I'm going to compare it to jiu-jitsu in a second. When I mention jiu-jitsu, I don't mean traditional, I mean Brazilian. So, Ronda Rousey burst onto the scene. She's the youngest ever American Olympian in judo. Not the most successful, but damn was she good. She maximized hip throws. Her physique was amazing, even for female judoka, her weight class. Judoka, by the way, is the proper terms for judo practitioner. But she had another talent, and that talent was being able to mix in the striking element. Now, it's good being able to grapple like Khabib. I'm not going to say his second name because I feel like he's going to bash through the window and say this is number 1 bullshit and beat the fuck out of me. But I think it was in one of Ronda's fights when she was fighting, I can't remember her name for the Christ to me, but I remember it was a 13-second knockout where she Muay Thai clinched the neck, knee to the body, and used that knee to step in for an Osotogari, which is a hip toss. Throws her and gets into a scarf hold, and then beats the hell out of her head. Now, there's 2 elements of that you wouldn't see in jiu-jitsu. The fact that there's strikes and the scarf hold. Now, what you're saying, what I mean by scarf holds, I mean Kezagatami. Now, why won't you see that in jiu-jitsu? Well, I want to give you a number 1 principle of jiu-jitsu. At any point, if you show your back will be taken. Now, there's the 4 ways of jiu-jitsu described by John Danaher is 1. Taking your opponent down, 2. Passing the guard, 3. Establishing a position, and 4. Submission. But he includes leg locks and breaks the cycle. In MMA, when strikes are included, all cycles are broken. Anything goes in MMA. That's why it's such a good thing to watch. If you see someone in side control in MMA, anything can happen because the guy on bottom could suddenly start winning. In jiu-jitsu, That's a different game. Now, back to my previous point about judo and jiu-jitsu, I just like to explain how there's a lot of different rules. That's what makes judo and jiu-jitsu different. Now, I don't know about you, but Ronda Rousey is really fucking good. Like, people shit on her, but her judo in terms of no-gi is phenomenal. I can't pull off a hip toss. I'm 2-time national champion. I can't pull off a hip toss like her with no-gi. I've seen like European champions not pull off hip tosses like her without gi on, and they're being let. She's like having people punch her in the face. Everyone is a black belt till they get punched in the face. Just think of that. Just think of that for 2 seconds. But there's levels. There's big levels. I can be a black belt in judo, but my level is nowhere near Ronda Rousey's. Conor McGregor may be a purple belt or turn to a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, while Rashad Evans is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But his level of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is nowhere near Damian Maia's. Imagine a grappling match between them. This was very apparent with that little kind of tough underground grappling match with Dan Henderson and John Jones, I think about a year and a half ago now. Yeah, it was a year and a half ago. John Jones faced Dan Henderson in a grappling match. Now, this is how talented John Jones is. Dan Henderson... Was it Dan Henderson? I think I'm getting it right. It was Dan Henderson, because it was after his retirement. Was a Greco-Roman Olympian. I just want to establish that. A Greco-Roman Olympian. My dad was in the Greco-Roman Olympic team. And the physical ability you must have to be a Greco-Roman... There's a difference between freestyle wrestling and Greco-Roman. Greco-Roman, there's no use of leverage. Well, there is some leverage, but it's just physical strength. It's just like having two boulders crush against each other till one cracks. That's kind of like the Greco-Roman style. Dan Henderson was not only on the Olympic team, he was a gold medalist from America in Greco-Roman. I just want to establish the fact that for like 30 to 20 years, Greco-Roman in all divisions was ruled by the Russians, the Turks, well, the Turkish, and the Greeks, and some Polish. Dan Henderson beat them all in decisive fashion. I think it was like, under 88 kilograms, under 90 kilograms? I can't remember. I was reading about this the other day. But John Jones ankle picked him and submitted him in, I believe, 8 minutes. When I say there's levels, once you are uniquely talented, you surpass all levels. It's a very strange ability for people to have. Georges St. Pierre? 4 people come to mind, actually. John Jones, Georges St. Pierre, Demetrius Johnson, and this could be surprising, but TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw might be the best pound for pound fighter on the planet if he continues going like this. If you see how TJ Dillashaw improves with every fight, in terms of growth, he's probably 2 times the amount of Mighty Mouse. Just Mighty Mouse has had a very, very, very determined run. Mighty Mouse has the hands of champions, and TJ Dillashaw is only realistically had 2 championship fights with 2 really serious competitors, Dominic Cruz and Cody Garbrandt. Now, I know you're thinking, that fight with Cody should have won it. TJ was knocked out. It's just a game. TJ was knocked out, but he got back up 5 minutes later. Yeah. So, let me just pause this really quickly. Okay, where was I? Sorry about that. Had to have a little break. I was talking about John Jones, weren't I? And the levels. Judo's a very old sport. Well, it's not very old. It's a very old martial art when you think about it. It stems all the way back to traditional jiu-jitsu, to the samurais. Same with Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and the only thing that separates them is the rules. ADCC and the Olympics. Now, when you merge both together, You create the perfect game. You create the perfect martial art. Or so they think. Now, the perfect martial art, what's that? Well, there's three characteristics, well, for the perfect martial art. Perfect martial art. There's no such thing. It's just called fighting. The perfect fighter. GSP, John Jones. That's where I was. I was about TJ Dillashaw. TJ goddamn Dillashaw versus Demetrius Johnson is a rule for the decade. Is one for the decade. And actually, I'm a big DJ fan. I'm a big Demetrius Johnson fan. But I'm scared he's going to lose. I am genuinely scared Demetrius Johnson will lose this fight to TJ Dillashaw in the second round by knockout. And not like blasting with power knockout. I mean a technical, fast, body, head kick combo that will knock Demetrius down and knock him out, making TJ Dillashaw the fifth person to hold 2 belts. It's a very confusing game at the moment. A very confusing game. Now, that's the only really interesting fight this year. I know people want to see Nate Diaz versus Conor Free, but the true fight this year, the true MMA enthusiast fight this year is Demetrius Johnson versus TJ Dillashaw. Because that will be the most technical, most fast-paced, scrambly, submission-heavy, wrestling-based fight for the decade. Because these two people, you got to remember, are the pound-for-pound greatest fighters in the world for their size. I mean, yeah, Dominic Cruz, yeah, he was better champion, blah, blah, blah. I don't give a fuck about Dominic Cruz right now. No one cares about Dominic Cruz right now. I love him to bits, but he's the last man to beat Demetrius Johnson, but Demetrius Johnson was fighting at Dominic's weight class, and Dominic's a big 135er. He should be a 145er. Demetrius Johnson was also on a few weeks' notice, his start of his career. Now, to create the perfect fight is a hard thing, because you got to make and master everything. I want to tell you the 3 principles of all martial arts that you should keep, that Demetrius Johnson and TJ Dillashaw have. They have balance, extreme coordination, and unorthodox thinking. When you think about the greatest... Okay, back to judo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm mainly going to focus on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu now. I want you to look up Brian Hall. Brian Hall and Jeff Glover. Brian Hall and Jeff Glover are the most unorthodox, yet most successful Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners on the planet. And Roger Gracie, for a heavyweight, does an unorthodox shit. I've seen him train. I've been with Roger. I've been at shoot fighters. He's crazy, but it's fun. His jiu-jitsu's fun. What you don't understand is, to make the perfect martial art, you have to have fun with it. Now, I want you guys to think about that. I want you guys to think about having fun with it. I had fun with it the other day. I basically took Daniel Cormier's and Khabib Nurmagomedov, that guy, crazy Russian dude, well, Dagestanian. I took their high crotch. High crotch is a wrestling move that's very powerful. It's more powerful than the double leg. It's more powerful than a hook around the neck, a hip toss, a one-arm shoulder throw. A high crotch is literally you getting a butcher's grip or a gable grip high in their crotch, just beneath the man's pelvis area and the leg. And you can pick a man twice your weight up with that size. Very good examples, Daniel Cormier versus Alexander Gustafsson. I think it was around the 2nd or 3rd round, where he picks Alexander Gustafsson, who's a very big man, up into the air and flips him. Khabib done it to Edson Barboza. What you're meant to do is just run him. Just run him into the ground. But you can pick him up. It requires a lot of hip strength, though, and a lot of balance and coordination. It took me a few hours to get it right, but I was doing it. The greatest jiu-jitsu practitioners have fun. Jeff Glover, for example. Donkey guard. Who the fuck uses donkey guard and makes it a very good thing? it works with coaches as well. I want to tell you one thing. John Danaher is probably the greatest jiu-jitsu coach on the entire planet. He identified the 4 principles of winning a jiu-jitsu match. Taking them down, passing guard, establishing position, then submission. But he got the idea of leg locks. Because leg locks are out of the equation in every single thing. You could perform a leg lock from standing, from passing the guard, from in a position, and whilst doing a submission. You can move from a knee bar to a heel hook, or you can heel hook someone while they're arm barring you if you're fucking flexible enough. I've seen it before at ADCC. I think Crone Gracie tried it a few years ago. Crone Gracie tried it on someone. But very good examples are, as much as I hate him, Gordon Ryan and Gary Tonin. But a dark horse at the moment, a very big dark horse, is Jake Shields. I want you guys to give it. Jake Shields is very underrated, but I give you a year. I give you a good year and a half before we start hearing Jake Shields' name again in the world of jiu-jitsu. I mean, his MMA days are done. I think he's taken too many blows. I saw that Georges St. Pierre fight with Jake Shields, and it was meant to be this big grappling fest. Shields was meant to match George. George just took him down and just ground and pounded him. Now, Jake Shields in a year and a half, I want you guys to watch him and see his game improve to the point that no one can match him in his division. The 10th planet black belts are falling behind the Danaher Death Squad as well. Just take that in mind. We have the rubber guard, closed guard enthusiasts into electric chair versus the leg lock enthusiasts. The guys who play it by the system versus the guys who want to break the system. Now, we see this at EBI all the time, but for the first time last year, we saw it at Abu Dhabi. Now, the next EBI, I want you guys to watch out for the Danaher Death Squad versus Eddie Bravo's team, because that will be the greatest jiu-jitsu show on the entire planet by far. And that's it. This is the best introductory podcast I've ever had. Now, most of you guys probably didn't know what I was talking about. When I was saying John Danaher, give him a quick Google. I believe he's from New Zealand. Or sorry, I've just got another message. Right. After not checking my phone like an unprofessional, I've now got to review the audio and see what's going on. Thank you for listening, guys. What do we go on the name? I think it was Grappling Munchies. Grappling Munchies. There we go. Thank you for listening, guys. I'm going to upload this soon. And just let me know how you like it. I can just talk about MMA all day. I want to get into depth on Friday about the TJ Dillashaw versus Demetrius Johnson fight. Because that's just great. That's just a great fight. In general, that's probably one of the best fights that's ever going to happen in the history of MMA. We thought was the baddest man on the planet. Francis Ngannou versus Stipe Miocic was a joke, in my opinion. I knew Stipe was going to just batter him and batter him and batter him. It's the end of the day. It's strength versus technique. It's Maurice Smith versus Mark Coleman. That's how back that fight stemmed back, because Mark Coleman had the threat of taking him down and beating him into a pulp. So did Francis. The entire fight, I was in my jeans, just shuffling, getting scared after every single punch Francis threw. But I guarantee you, the best fight of the entire year will be TJ Dillashaw versus Demetrius Johnson. Mark my words. Okay, just want to add something on. Earlier in the audio podcast, I said Osa Tugari instead of Ogoshi. for hip throws, and I know a lot of judo guys will be angry at me saying, "You're not a judo brown belt. You got fucking in the throw wrong." Blah blah blah. Here's my correction, bitches. Here's my fucking correction. Thank you to watching the end of the video. Now, yeah. Okay, that'll do. That'll do for the video. Thank you for listening, guys.